and welcome to this evening's Evening Review. I'm Ashley Smith, the news editor of Namibian Sun, and let's take a look at today's front page. And on today's Evening Review, we've got quite an interesting interview with the Nudo Secretary General Joseph Kauendenge, who is on his way to Parliament after 21 March. But firstly, a very sad story from Kavango, where our reporter Kenya Kambowe spoke to a man called Moses Mokozo, who has been living under a tree and sleeping under a tree for the past 4 years.
Now let him sleep. Show me how you sleep. Show me how you sleep.
Oh.
So Kafuro, this is how you sleep.
Yes.
And when it rains, you sleep like that. Okay, that's how you cover. Okay, oh, it's okay. Now show me your food that you have left in the house. Show me the food, the courier. What do you have? What do you still have left? So this is. Okay, that is Mausira. Yeah, that is the maize that he has left. And I saw some skin. What is that? What is that? Skin zongombe.
Yeah.
So this is cow skin.
Yes.
So you cook this one.
Yes.
Okay. And mutete. Okay. Just put it. You can put it back. And where do you cook? Where do you cook? Where's your kitchen? Come show me the kitchen. Okay. This way you cook. Okay. Show me where you put your pot. Oh. Okay. Okay. No, that's good. Okay. And show me where were you sleeping before? Where was your first house before this tree? Where you sleeping before? Show me. Now go show me. Let's go there. Just here.
And now we'll jump right into that interview with Joseph Kauendenge. And welcome back, viewers. We are privileged to have with us in the Evening Review studio this evening Joseph Kauendenge, who is the Secretary General of the Nudo Party and also a soon-to-be Member of Parliament. How are you doing this evening?
I'm fine.
It's good to have you here.
The same.
Let's start off with a little bit of a topical issue at the moment that's been hitting the papers. There's been calls from certain quarters for people to boycott the upcoming Independence Day, 30-year Independence Day celebrations. What is your view, and what is Nudo's view on those calls?
Well, for starters, if the proponents, those that were calling or that are calling for the days to be boycotted, can at least say on that day, let's reflect back on 30 years of our independence to see what have we achieved, what is still lacking, what needs to be done to address the socio and economic problems confronting this country and its people. I will agree with them and say, yes, let's reflect. Let's take an introspection as to where are we 30 years down the road. I would have agreed with them if they could have asked the question, and a very pertinent question, to say, what was the dream at the dawn of independence? What did our forefather dreamed? Has that dream been achieved or not yet? Yes, I would have said, I agree with them. But simply to call for the boycotting of a national event like the independence of this country, just for the sake of boycotting it, and Nudo does not agree with that.
Yeah. Fair point. Fair point. Okay, so now for the kind of different kind of question. You've been in various political formations over the years, Mr. Kauendenge. Do you feel settled at Nudo at the moment, and is your party hopping days over?
I expected that one. No, when you are a young person, you obviously take decision on the spur of the moment because of this impulsiveness of young people. But later on, when you reflect back, you ask yourself, was that the right decision to take? Was it necessary for me to move from here to there? And as you grow older, you realize that now it's time for stability in your life. You have kids that have grown up, that are becoming men and women. So you settle down. Now, as far as Kauendenge is concerned, he has settled down for the last 6 years or so in Nudo, and I'm still here remaining, not going anywhere.
Just on a more serious note, you are now a former council at the city of Windhoek. Obviously, we just had a discussion. You obviously had to resign in terms of Article 47 of the Constitution, and you will now be joining the new Parliament after the 21st of March. But just in terms of your time at the city of Windhoek and the demolition of shacks, we know that's a very sore point, very big sore point for our people. What role, if any, do councillors play in either sanctioning or stopping this kind of cruelty?
Well, my take on that question is that, there is a need for a total overhaul of the whole local authority spectrum, in a sense that we have a Local Authority Act that does not really speak to the people on the ground. And I think until such time that we remove party politics from the local authority set up in this country, because mind you, local authority is where the bread and butter issues are discussed.
That's correct, yes.
And it doesn't, or it should not matter whether you are a councillor from Nudo or SWAPO or whatever party, because what comes to mind should be the interests and aspirations of your people in that particular locality or town to address their concerns. Now, unfortunately, the current Local Authority Act, it's written in such a manner that councillors are put just there as mere spectators in the game. Whenever these things have been playing out, they are just mere spectators. They don't really have any authority, any power, to say the least, in terms of influencing the outcome of policies and what have you. Like, for instance, when you come to shack demolitions and whatnot, yes, council will sit. Council will pronounce itself and say, no, this should not happen or that should happen. But who are the implementers at the end of the day? The officials. So you have a situation where you have a system where you have part-time councillors, unlike in South Africa where you have executive councillors that are employed on a full-time basis to carry the duties of those localities. So In terms of shack demolitions, well, when I was there, we did intervene from time to time to say, no, this should not happen. But then the officials comes in and say, but there are bylaws that needs to be followed as, the city police or whatever. So we tried at times to prevent that. Sometimes we did succeed, sometimes we did not succeed. But on a serious note, really, there is a serious need to make councillors permanent, full-time employees for them to be able to deliver, because this is a person that is sitting in another office for the whole of the day and only comes at council for 1 or 2 hours. What do you expect? What output will you expect from such a person?
Yeah. Okay, so now the next question essentially is a bit of fantasy, but I want to throw it in. If you were in President Hage Geingob's shoes right now, what are the top 5 things that you would do as head of state to immediately better the lives of Namibians?
Well, if I was the president, first and foremost, I should have sat back and reflected on the last year election. Because mind you, believe me or not, whether he agree or he does not agree, that was something to do with how the people of this country, irrespective of the politics and party politics, how they viewed his administration for the last 5 years. And that was a verdict to say, we are not happy with what you have been doing as head of state. So first and foremost, I could have sat down and reflected on my own role and influence in the policies that my government actually takes out and roll out to the general public there. That should have been the first thing. The second thing, as president, one will have addressed the issue of unemployment in this country. Well, unfortunately, our education system have been tailored in such a way that it produce job seekers instead of job creators.
Yes.
And that is where you see small countries like Singapore, very tiny for that matter. They have invested so heavily in the vocational training field. Today they are a superpower on their own rights. Now, as a developing country that cannot even produce toothpicks, the basic commodities or basic things that we cannot even produce, that we have to import from South Africa, that could have been one of the areas that I as president should have looked into and say, but I need to address this. The other one, our president is very, what is the right word that I want to say? He does not think corruption has been entrenched in this country. Yeah. But it has, and it is entrenched at all levels of our society. Starting from wherever you are, those that have access to eating and tenders and what have you, they always make sure that some cuts are going into their own pockets. So he should have and start to address that issue critically and seriously on a serious note. The other issue, obviously, will be the issue of, as I have alluded to, the issue of service delivery. In a country of 2.5 million or so, how can you have 800 or more than 500 of your residents staying in informal settlements? Why? What is the reason for that? So then it tells you that there are no priorities in terms of addressing that issue. So one will also expect him to have started to say, yes, now I'm back as a president for the next 5 years. How am I going to address these basic needs that my people should get at the end of the day? But more importantly, at the end of the day, he should actually address the issue of accountability towards those that have been put in power by him through his cabinet. We have ministers that are practically earning their salaries and doing nothing. Where does the buck stop when the ministry is in chaos and things are not happening and nothing is moving? It shouldn't be him, it should be the minister that he put in place there. But our ministers of nowadays, they absolve themselves from any problem whatsoever. It's not me, it's the executive director, but you are the political head of that ministry. When will the buck start stopping at your doorstep? He must hold ministers accountable, or if I was the president, start holding them accountable. And when you say, I don't condone corruption, you must lead by example. I don't condone laziness. You must lead by example. And these are the things really, on a serious note, that our current president lacks. And if I was president one day, maybe, as you ask that hypothetical question, those are some of the areas that I will really address head on.
So staying on that kind of line, what is Nudo going to do differently in Parliament after the 21st of March?
Well, to start off with, we are going to bring fury and fire into that house. I mean, it's a disgrace. It is absolutely a disgrace that we have ministers, members of parliament, sitting in that AUKUS house for the past 5 years and not saying even yes as recommended or yes I propose, being mute in that parliament. Now, what is the business of a parliamentarian? You are in parliament to articulate issues that affect the vast majority of these people of this country, irrespective of their political orientation. Now, if you are sitting there earning a salary for a period of 5 years, the bankbenchers, I mean, some people, you will see them in the streets there, you will not even recognize them as honorable members of parliament because they haven't said a boo or whatever in that parliament. So when we go there, we are going to make sure right from the word go that our voices should be heard as parliamentarians. And the other thing also that we will address critically is the issue of demanding a committee on legislation. It's a scandal of the highest order that the cabinet has a committee on legislation, but the body that is tasked with legislation, which is parliament, does not have any committee on legislation. Now, where does legislation originate from? As a student of law myself, or about to finish, legislation starts from parliament. That's where bills are proposed. That's where laws are amended or repealed. Now, if you don't have that one, you will have a scenario of the current fish road going on where the amendment to the Fishing Act was promulgated from that cabinet committee on legislation. And they just bring it in and bulldoze it through parliament. So we will fight for that one. We will hold this government accountable. It doesn't matter whether you are one or two. As in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, an injustice done anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And he went on to say that the silence of the minority, when the majority misuse and misdirect the government resources, is also a crime against humanity. So we are going to be very, very forceful and hold these colleagues of ours and comrades, whatever you call them, to account for their deeds in parliament.
Okay, that sounds like a plan going forward in terms of parliament.
Yes.
But in terms of Nudo itself, now I don't want to, because I think every time somebody from Nudo sits down anyway, people want to ask them about what do you say to people that say you're a tribal party. I'm not going to go there today.
But it's a very vital question.
Should I go there?
Absolutely,
should I go there? But I want to ask a follow-up question after you answer that one.
Yes.
Okay, please answer the question then.
Listen, which party in Namibia is not tribal? No, honest. Let's have that honest discussion as Namibians. Which party is not tribal? SWAPO started as an OPO, Ovambo People's Organization. They transferred that name or renamed them Southwest Africa People's Organization later on.
But they became obviously a broad-based, mass-based party, didn't
they might, from the naked eye.
Well, obviously the poll support shows that they've got countrywide support.
They might from a naked eye, but where are the real decisions taken? They are not taken by those that are in minority within SWAPO. They are taken from the far northern countries or regions where they sit and decide this is the agenda going forward. The rest of us that are in the SWAPO party as minorities, we just do the line. So, in having said that, Nuto started off as a party from the chief councils.
Yes.
But Chief Hosea Kutako, who engineered in 1964 to start Nuto, had the foresight even at that time to call the founding president of this country and send him out. It was Chief Kutako, to send him out to petition the United Nations.
That's right.
In 1964. So in the Chief Council, there were other tribes, the old location story, what have you, what have you. So Hereros, by nature, have no DNA of tribalism. We share with everybody. But unfortunately, the same way where you will find more Oshiwambo-speaking Namibians in Swapo, that's the same way where you will find more Herero-speaking Namibians in Nudo. But neither of that make those two parties tribal.
Okay. Now let me take that question a bit further.
Yes.
I want to put it to you. Aren't there enough small parties in Namibia? Aren't we having a situation where the opposition remains fragmented? And don't you think that the opposition should in some way unite to become a stronger force?
Well, I agree 100%. But the problem is about leadership. You know, there have been so many attempts at bringing these smaller parties together. But before you even enter the door of negotiations, it's already a question of who is going to be the leader. So the substantial issues are relegated to the back door. Because first, those of us that are so power hungry, we are asking each other, but who is going to be the leader? And that's where it ends.
And somehow also, because it was part of the question actually,
Yes.
was this whole issue of loving the word president in front of your name. Although you're the president of a few people in a party, you like that word president.
Absolutely. You know, and that is where the problem is. Our politicians, and I'm not saying them, I'm saying I'm including myself into the mix because I'm also a politician. Unfortunately, we have so overdosed on power that we don't see the bigger picture. You will see a situation where 3 parties run for a constituency. The 2 parties' votes combined can beat the SWAPO candidate. But because we are so fragmented, the SWAPO candidate wins the day. Now, who's to be blamed? Obviously, it's us as opposition leaders in this country that we must go back to the basics and ask ourselves. In actual fact, some of these people have been there since time immemorial. When Namibia gained its independence in 1990, they were there. They are not getting rich. Even now at 64, 75, they will never get rich if they did not get rich in the past. So, what is the issue? We must come back and discuss and say, what is in the best interest of this country? What is the foresight? Why can we not come together and form one formidable opposition parties, have a 2 system like in the Americas, where you have the Democrats and the Republican on that side, but that system is working there because at times when you have a party in the White House that have won the presidency, you might have the other one in the Senate or in the House of Representatives that has the majority. So you have that check and balance going forward. But unfortunately, first is a question of who is going to be the leader.
And yeah, we've reached the end of my questions. I've got one more for you. Your music career.
Yes. I expected that one as well.
Are you? Yeah, it's quite an obvious one to end the interview off with. But are you continuing with that? And what can your fans expect from you?
Someone actually said, Kauendenge is now going to Parliament. So will he sing first in Parliament every session before Parliament starts, or what will happen? No, I have unfortunately called it a little bit off because I'm getting older. I have a young son, my last born, that is a very gifted singer. He have taken over that place. So for me, no music for now, really, because I now have to concentrate on the serious business of running this country. But going forward, you never know. But for now, I have quit it, and I said, let me concentrate on this one aspect of politics going forward.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you once again for joining us. It was a real pleasure having you.
No, absolutely, absolutely. The only thing that I will leave Namibia with is that we must guard against our democracy. We have people in some quarters seemingly calling for regime change. It's not a good thing. Whether we agree with the constitutional judgment or not, we still have to respect it. whether we agree with President Hage Geingob, his policies or not, according to that judgment, he's still president of this country. We should just respect that. If we are not happy, there is a legal recourse, but not anarchy and chaos, because we have seen what happened to countries that have political instability, the likes of Zimbabwe and others. I don't want us to go there. It's costly.
Exactly.
And we will become refugees in other countries.
And thank you for that words of wisdom.
Thank you.
And that's all we have time for today on the Evening Review. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Ashley Smith, the news editor of Namibian Sun.